So we are here at Hypernatural. Shout out to one of our new men in the house, Thomas Dante.
Right.
From the show, Jonas.
Appreciate it to be here. Yeah, sure. Yeah, cool.
Good to have you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah. Alrighty.
Yeah. Hypernatural.Berlin, show number 8. What are we thinking? What are we thinking? What are we thinking? Danny, what do you think we are thinking?
What we are thinking.
Of what we are thinking.
Of what we're thinking. This is definitely material to think about.
It is material to think about. What were you thinking about 10 years ago, Danny?
I was here. I was still.
You were here?
I was pretty much here. Actually, I was in this. Yeah. I was here literally.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have some
such a hard question
going down tonight. We had just an idea what we wanted to discuss about with everybody as an entrance piece. It was more about where was everybody 10 years ago. So we have some interesting characters in the house tonight, right?
Yes, very interesting characters. Each one of them.
I think the most famous person here.
It's a good thing. It's definitely a good thing.
Fritz is the most well-behaved, right? Fritz is on a game.
He's a professional.
He's been there. He's like, okay, look at me. I'm the cool one. So Fritz.
Fritz can.
What? Straight in. No messing.
Good boy, Fritz. Good Fritz. All down. He loves the mic.
He's a natural.
No.
He's a natural.
Obviously, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
That could be quite true. So 10 years ago was quite an interesting time for myself, and we were just discussing this. Since a lot of us have been here in this city more than 10 years, where was everybody's head at 10 years ago? You know? Mavin. You come a little bit late tonight, so we're going to get you first, yeah? So,
hey.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hello. What's up, everybody? My name is Mavin, and what was the question again? Where I was 10 years ago.
Where was your head at 10 years ago?
I was basically just relocating back to Berlin from Sweden and Warsaw. I've been away for many years. I'm an old Berliner, Ur-Berliner. But I left on my quest for happiness and whatever. So when I came back, I didn't know what to do with myself. It was about 2009, which was like 10 years ago, and that's also the time I think when I started like thinking about doing something with fashion and music, and I started recording a lot of demos with people, and I started doing my vintage stuff that I'm still doing. So it's like almost 10 years now. So that's me.
Very good. Thank you, Mavin. Brendon, please, and maybe before that you can just give us one line who you are for the viewers at home that doesn't know you.
Sure. My name is Brendon Power, and I guess the most important thing that I do these days is I'm a co-founder for the Institute for Sound and Music.
Oh yeah.
We want to build one day. We want to.
Well done.
We want to one day build a museum here in Berlin dedicated to sound, immersive art, and electronic music culture. And you can check out berlin/ism.com for a lot more info on that.
Oh, okay. We'll definitely check it out.
He's well trained on the mic.
Yeah. He knows his lines.
So what time is now? Let's get in.
You gotta fake it till you make it, Rob.
Elevator pitching.
Many years, man.
Yeah.
Very good.
But 10 years ago, I was almost a totally different person. I was living and working in Melbourne. I was only 24 at the time, but I felt like I was growing out of my partying phase.
Already 24.
Yeah, but so I moved to Berlin just over 9 years ago. So Berlin was on the horizon, but I didn't know it yet.
So when you wanted to move out of the partying mode, then you moved to Berlin. That's a good move.
That's like going back to being 18 or more. It felt so. It was like moving to Berlin 9.5 years ago was like a rebirth for me, and a lot of cool stuff has happened since then.
Yeah.
So my head 10 years ago, my head was in a totally different place than it is right now.
All right. We want to hear more about that. We will hear more about that. Sabrina, you can also give one line of introduction just for our viewers.
Where were you 10 years ago?
Okay, and then let us know where.
So I'm Sabrina, and I
doing a lot of things. Most of all, what I did the last 10 years is I was booking for different clubs. I was booking bands. I'm like a social media kind of chameleon person, I guess you would call it.
Social media chameleon.
And I kind of got jumped. I jumped in the cold water here because I came from a different angle. And then when I came to Berlin, basically, I ended up working for White Trash Fast Food, which is not around anymore.
We noticed.
And this is what got me started. And then, I've been working my way around and basically retired from the music scene last year.
Oh.
So there's still some stuff coming up, but I'm going to do some self-promotion later for the summer later on this year.
Sure,
and you're going to be also involved, Mavin. Anyways, I hope you are. Anyways, you don't know what's happening, but it's going to be. And hey, and whoever else wants to be involved. Anyways, 10 years ago, I was here 2 years into the Berlin madness, and before I had actually kind of cut the rave, and then when I came back here, I got sucked in, as probably a lot of people do, and then I know this is going to be boring, but of course it was the last year of Bar 25, so I guess this is where I might or might have not been, maybe stumbling out of Golden Gate, heading over to Bar 25 and something like that, so it was the wild times, where you could party on rooftops, and probably you still can, but I don't that much anymore.
He doesn't agree.
He was in Melbourne then, but you look familiar. Maybe
another
rooftop another year.
It's also interesting topic I want to talk about.
Yeah, this was where I was at, and then somehow kind of White Trash saved me because I got back. I had to hang out with rock and roll bands, and not only
rock and roll
DJs. doing rock and roll.
Bad influence.
No, so this is where I was at.
Okay, wow.
Pass on the mic.
All right, very good, very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm
Tropical Camel.
Roy Asayag, Tropical Camel, aka Rocky B, MC, producer, DJ. 10 years ago, I was 30. I was in Jerusalem. It was a time that I was a bit thinking to myself, what should I do with all this music shit? And where should I go by being an experimental spoken word artist, which doesn't have a lot of job options in the Middle East. So I wanted to take a business because I thought it would be good to use my contacts, and I tried a bar that still exists till this day, but
what's the name of it?
It was a bar called Rosa. It was the base of the experimental scene in Jerusalem.
Can you tell something about this place? It's a special place.
It's a very special place for me. I can talk about it later. And then it became the drop, the tipa, and then I didn't took it. I took a club instead. So I became a club owner. And I had a club for 1.5 years. Bass Club. And we brought a lot of great artists, and we had a lot of good times. In the storage room, outside the storage room. It was nice times. It was 10 years ago.
Anecdote, I've been booked to this club and played there 10 years ago also, pretty much at the same time.
You're talking about some business arrangements.
There's some behind business arrangements going on here, that's all.
Okay, I see the hustle tonight.
The hustling already started.
Spread the bread.
Bread sheet, let's go.
Yeah, I think it's interesting from I suppose from my 10 years ago is like then me and Tyrese. Well, actually, it was definitely this period when we started doing radio. And radio was fun.
It was 10 years ago.
I think we must have done about the 4th show where a friend of ours from Glasgow was playing a live set in Spreewaldplatz. So I was like, okay, if James Johnson's playing there tonight, I'm coming down. And I got in contact with James. I said, James, I'm coming down. He's like, yes, brother, come down. So we had a few beers, and then I met Brendan's brother. And the party was electric. And we were like, man, this is interesting. This is interesting. So this is the start of Jack the Box. So thank you, Brendan.
All right. We talk about the place, the
this was Kleiner Reise.
Famous Kleiner Reise clubs. Clap your hand to the Kleiner Reise. everybody clapping.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Pucci.
That was an interesting time.
This place, we know it.
Man, we brought a guy called Gerald there. We brought Danny Rampling. Yeah.
But Danny said it was the most smallest club he actually ever played for, because he's recently was at that point playing on a 2,000 capacity location.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys pulled that off. It was so strange. Is it the Danny
story.
Rampling? The Shoom Danny? Like that guy?
Yeah.
So weird.
Yeah, nice dude as well. We had a lot of fun, man. He didn't want to leave your club.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was not. No, I'm not going to say nothing. Yeah, Danny Rampling, man.
Nobody hears us, so we should.
Oh, we should keep talking. Yeah. Yeah, no, a big shout out to my brother Peter and Patrick and Dara who founded the club, and Patrick's still here in Berlin doing his thing. Peter's in Brazil, and Dara's making films back in Ireland right now. So
okay, I know your brother. I didn't make out with him, but I was one of the few girls probably who did.
Are you sure?
Yes, I think he was making out with my friend to the time. So that's like, honor.
2010 was a crazy year.
Tell us something more about this time. Get us into the...
Yeah, I mean, okay, so 10 years ago, I wasn't yet in Berlin, but if we go back 9.5 years ago, my brother had moved to Berlin. Two of my friends had been living here for a while. One of them was working in this hotel, or hostel, 36 rooms on Spreewaldplatz. And he saw the space that they had in the basement, and he kind of had a light bulb, kind of a eureka moment, like this could be a good space for a club or a bar, and they gave him a little bit of money to do it up, and they put their heart and soul into it. And I mean, for those of you guys who have been there, you can see it. I prefer small, intimate clubs. Like I love going to the big ones. Well, a little bit, but I prefer a place that by the end of the night, 80% of the people there. You've spoken to all of them. And coming from Dublin, the club scene in Dublin was really healthy in the 90s, not so much in the 2000s, but because of licensing hours, because everything closes at 3 a.m., the after party scene is quite strong, but not after party as in a Berlin after, but like a back to my place kind of thing.
Back to my place, like
exactly.
Small towns kind of.
Exactly. And when we were in college, we were fortunate to have a place that was surrounded by offices and buildings during the week, so that we had no actual neighbors at the weekend. And we used to throw a big party called the Minge. And this is the ethos that we kind of brought to Kleine Reise, to kind of build somewhere that was just more like a laid-back house party vibe and not so serious as some of the other clubs. And that was somewhere that was open and respectful, because it took a while to adjust to Berlin and the door policy and the du nicht and heute leider nicht and all this kind of excluding people. So with Kleine Reise, it was just everybody in, everybody have a good time, and if you're a bad egg, you leave. But everybody had a chance to come in and have a good time. Yeah. So out of this small little Keller bar, it was the hard work of the three guys who set it up, but then my brother Peter, I gotta give him credit, he was booking people ahead of the curve. Like he would book, for example, someone like Nicholas Jar in March, and then by June they were playing Panorama Bar or Berghain, and then we could never afford to book them again, but we would get them as they're on the way up. As they're on the way up. Yeah, Peter had a good knack for seeing who was going places and who had the skills. Yeah. Yeah, that was Mark and Mano, two Irish friends of ours, and
in the same neighborhood in Dublin.
They're from Wicklow, which is just south of Dublin, but we kind of grew up in parallel. I didn't know them when I was living in Dublin. They actually had a house as well called Hang Tough, so we weren't rivals, but we were there was two party houses in Dublin, and they had the other one. But yeah, we gave them a night in the club, and they did it fantastic. They knocked it out of the park, and they started getting people like Am and Dixon, or massive guys into our small space, and it became a great platform for them. And it's now with equal amounts of pride and envy that I see them touring around the world, DJing internationally every weekend, and they've done a fantastic job. Yeah, something they've done great with it, and now they have their record label Mavin. Like I said, they're doing very well.
If I connect to that, for 10 years ago, at the same time I was also releasing one of my starting to release records basically at that time. Actually, it started with one of the first releases. That is a remix I did for Rob here and Tyree. It Was only Rob.
No,
Only
actually,
Rob.
no,
It was
no,
okay,
yeah,
Rob.
exactly,
Terry
yeah,
was
yeah.
on the other remix to me.
Long story, but
Long
no,
story.
that was a solo.
It was a solo,
It was
it was
actually
all-
a Fleetwood Mac song.
Okay. Oh, was it?
When we did a cover of a World Turn. Long story, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one.
So you talk about
Terrence Parker.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that time I knew these guys as well, going to the same place because Mano was remixing one of my records on their crew. So and we also used to hang. I mean, in the Sweat Lodge Radio, we can shout out to these guys.
Yeah, that was a good show.
It was inspiration. It was a good time as well. If you talk about that time for me as well. So I must say, like, it's a bit like, there was a time in this time, the tea room sessions. You probably
Yeah.
remember
Was
these
it? Are you
days.
talking about the one in? Was it in Maria Peligro or was it already in Prince Charles?
It started before that. It started actually in the tea room in Prenzlauer.
Okay.
That's why it's called the tea room session.
Right.
That's where it started.
Yeah.
And then it's moved to Maria Pellegro
Yeah.
and the rest. And that was
Yeah.
good times. I really liked it at these times. It was like really like hang every Friday, like everybody just hanging, playing some music, and just chilling, and like all the scene together. And that's something that
I have to jump in there because we were doing a weekly session. We did it from Yuma Bar.
I've been there as well, by the way.
He's a Strasse. Yeah, massive. Just gotta, since we're in the hood, you know what I mean?
Okay, if you
Give
talk
some
about the
respect.
hood. All right.
Give some respect.
Yeah,
Yuma Bar.
Sure. We have, of course, full respect for that. So.
We supposed just to talk? You don't ask us questions? No, because I can talk, man. Just give me the mic. I will talk, man. I will preach, man. But you need
that's
to
your
do
thing,
your
right?
job, man.
Talking is your thing.
Like, sorry. Yeah, I gotta say, like, I'm not so much in the club scene. Like, when I arrived to Berlin, it was a bit more, and when I was in my club, but I come from the hip-hop scene and the experimental scene. I'm coming from people that don't know how to play, but they still play. And the club scene was quite new to me. Also, when I got into the club. And I still look at it from a distance. Of course, I had my club nights. Of course, I know what you're talking about, but I find it like kind of like this scene talk. It's better to talk about meanings in music. And what I felt in my club, that we tried to generate a meaning, and it was very hard. And the hardest point for me was that I had to close the shows, not to continue with the club nights, because the shows actually they needed us, but the club nights they could survive without us. And there was all kind of alternative shows. We had something called Indifada, which is from Intifada to Indifada, which had bands like Mujahideen, which doing industrial punk rock with oriental elements, all kind of noise guys and crazy guys. But we had also our main focus actually in the club was bass, and it was quite amazing to see that was 2 lines of bass music, 2 events, monthly events that were fully, and we brought a lot of guys from UK, and it was quite interesting to see it. It was the dubstep time. Then it becomes a bit weak. Like, maybe, I don't know. I'm not so updated. But, yeah.
I like when you said the part with the guys who don't know how to play but still play. Could you maybe evaluate on, say something more about it?
Just want us to bash everybody. I already said to Robert after this show, nobody's getting booked and hired anymore.
What did you mean by that?
Because we spilled so many beans here.
Only good beans.
What I mean is, I guess the thing is, I have one band that I really love. That I met these guys. They were like the more oldest in the scenes. They were called Israel Band. They are quite a rare band. Even Jerusalemites don't know them. They are so not known. But they were artists and visual artists, similar to a lot of and they did like a indie. It was like kind of punk, experimental punk, and they said in the second track of their first album that was out on a vinyl, on a limited vinyl, in 100 copies, which they drew all the covers by themselves in a graffiti. They said, this is not my music, this is my opinion. And I gotta say, maybe I'm not about the opinion, but this is not music, this is my language. This is the language that I develop, is something that I guess that still today, they wrote it in 88, is still needed as a perception to any creation, to any inspiration. So that's what I mean with guys that don't play. Yeah.
It's on point. I think that's on point. I think you're right. There's always there's the real true believers, and then there's the crazy people who follow whatever's cool.
Well, but also I think it's if you put try to put a meaning into like a party scene or something, it kind of takes away the real meaning of the party scene in a way, because it's like, of course, Berlin scene is known for the hedonistic point and stuff, you know. So I don't think these people need to prove it in the party being a political statement, but by the way how they live, you know. So maybe you can judge the lack of them not maybe behaving the way you think they should behave, which is also kind of a shitty thing to do, you know. But at the end of the day, I think it's like, if rave would be more honest and be more about like everybody saying, dude, I'm like just here to get fucked up and dance, then maybe it would be like sometimes maybe a little bit of a less obnoxious place, and maybe also maybe a more fun place again, you know. But that's just my opinion, you know. I'm not taking away the meaning of whatever hip hop or something like that, you know. But I think, and just sometimes, yeah, sometimes. Ooh, sometimes.
It's true. Yeah, it's an interesting point of view. I mean, if you think back to what you're doing 10 years ago, so what do you do today? This is where we have to think. Have we moved on? Have we developed? Have we expanded? Have we been reborn?
All right, I can say something.
Come on, go for it.
So yeah, I could start. I'll rewind back to Clan Ariza and almost 10 years ago, and this was kind of inspirational for me. Was seeing the amount of people that come to Berlin for this culture, for this music, for this nightlife, this special nightlife. And you know, you would have all these people, amazing artists walking in. You would have people coming in who are working in the tech companies like Native Instruments or stuff like that. You would have.
We're saying game players.
But it was just like, it just, not that I've ever lived in Hollywood or been part of that machine, but in Hollywood you have the studios, you have the actors, you have all the directors, and you have all these different levels of the culture. And in Berlin you have the same thing. You have virtually everything. From, you know, the best clubs, the artists, the labels, the technology and all that. But I would get a lot of people who were coming into the club on a Wednesday or Thursday night, and they'd be like, hey, you know, we're here tonight. We're going to go to Berghain on Sunday. This is what we're in town for. But what do we do on Thursday or Friday afternoon or on Monday? Where should we go? And I was always thinking like, well, you know, you could go to somewhere cool like Hamburger Bahnhof. You could check out this exhibition or this gallery. You could go to Pergamon if you want like a classic museum experience. But there was nothing that really spoke to their interests. You know, there was nothing outside of the clubs and festivals. There was nothing that really people who are here for that could do during the day. And this was kind of the first spark of why isn't there a more kind of adult kind of
getaway?
Yeah, well, just something that speaks to people who are here for the music culture during the day. That's not in a club or a venue. And this was the kind of the first seed for the Institute for Sound and Music and the idea of building a museum here. Yeah, that was it.
The entrance is now done.
Nice. Where do we go from the entrance?
So where do you go? What happens when you walk into your location?
Can you say that again?
What happens when you walk in? What is the experience of coming into your location?
Which location do you mean?
Well, let's go to your Sound Institute. So the first location you used, how was it when you walked in?
Oh, well, so we've only done one big production in Berlin, and that was in Martin Gropiusbau, and that was
a great location.
Yeah, that was crazy. Before, the first person who opened our exhibition there was Brian Eno, and
it's not a bad one.
No, it was. It was pretty special. Seeing, first of all, okay, in the build-up, seeing the structure that we created, it was very quickly. It was a 360-degree visual installation with 6 5-meter high projection screens with like 4K, super high definition projections. So you're surrounded by visuals.
Yep.
And then we had 55 speakers spatially arranged in a dome configuration over the top, and it was called a hexadome. So it was this weird kind of high-tech audio-visual spaceship, and seeing it getting built was just incredible. But then inviting Brian in, and he actually composed his piece on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night in the space. It was kind of like watching, we're kind of pinching ourselves, it was like midnight. We were like watching Brian Eno compose an ambient piece of music in a space that we designed. It was akin to watching Michelangelo paint the Sistine Chapel or something. It was like this guy invented this stuff. So it was, after all the hard work that we'd done, it was incredibly rewarding, I would say. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Have you got videos of it?
We do.
Oh.
Question, because it's really funny to hear all these stories. Because I was just talking to a friend yesterday, and asking her why she chose to move to Berlin. What makes Berlin so special to people? Because I couldn't grasp it. I mean, I escaped from Berlin because I found it very boring and bland. But it was 15 years ago or something like that. So when I returned, actually, I started seeing things. Since I grew up here, I knew all the streets, the buildings, the people and the language and everything, but something changed, but I couldn't put into words what it was. So it's really interesting to hear all the stories from foreigners or expats, who move to Berlin and who do something, who build up something, like the stuff with Brian Eno, with the Sound Institute and stuff like that, because you don't really hear those stories unless you really read all those nerdy news or whatever. I mean, I haven't heard about it. I found it really exciting and really wow, there's really something happening here, because people are saying okay, Berlin is cool because it's this huge city, it's the city to be. But yeah, so I was really wondering what it is, what draws people to Berlin. Is it just the sex, drugs, and rock and roll type of thing, or is there something about it? Yeah.
Green parks, open air.
Just very quickly to that, what I would say that is unique here is the licensing hours. I don't know anywhere else in the world where the clubs close when the room empties out. So the fact that you have the freedom to stay open all night, that you can go to a Späti and buy alcohol all night, I'm not sure about any, at least in Western Europe, I'm not sure about anywhere that has.
See, this is when we can say Slavincian marketing strategy.
But if you think about that still is there is a little bit more to put on Brian Eno than just having an alcohol license. So yeah, don't play yourself short or something. But I think it's awesome, because a lot of the things, the same when I get visitors and they go to Atona Festival, they go to all these festivals and they appreciate it probably more, whatever, the Instrumental Museum, stuff like that, Super Booth, so many people come here for that. So those are perfect examples. You don't have to open a tattoo or a coffee shop when you're an expat in Berlin. There's other ways to probably, make a name here,
In terms of what's unique to Berlin, this model. Sorry. In terms of what's unique to Berlin, this model, the lack of closing times. I don't know if there's any other city in the world like that.
Stockholm, they throw you out.
Yeah. Everywhere throws you out at 3, 4, 5.
Only Amsterdam has this licensing policy right now.
Yeah, and Amsterdam has been developing it. They've actually been fighting for it, right?
It's only in the last 2 years, I think, and not all the clubs, few of them.
Sure, and this is a very simplistic reductionist way of looking at it, but I think this environment, even Ibiza now, they have to close clubs between it. This used to be the 24-hour island, always partying. People talk about New York as a city that never sleeps. Berlin never sleeps for lots of reasons, because it's consumed too much or it's too excited. But it's so different.
It's a very good business in drugs. I think in general, I haven't heard that. So in general, I don't think that Germans really understand how special they have it here, in Berlin, because everybody's talking about Berlin being so liberal and everything, and what you said, it just proves it, right? It's just very liberal with on all levels. So there are no rules. There are certain rules, of course, but I didn't know that it's not like that. Like for example in Amsterdam or I don't know. I mean, there are always like new cities. People are saying like this is the new Berlin. This is like. But, I mean, it never happens, you know. So.
Yeah, no, definitely a special place. And I guess we're talking about 10 years ago. Berlin has changed, and one of the interesting ways, or one side ways it's changed, is the open air party scene. I think I was lucky. So I moved here in early 2010, and I think summer 2010 was the last summer where there was just rampant parties everywhere.
Summer of love.
And nowadays, when people advertise it,
was earlier.
but nowadays, when people advertise an open air in Berlin, you arrive at the spot and there's like a cover charge, and you can't bring your own alcohol in. In the past, if you heard about an open air, you would turn up. You would turn up, and it was a system in maybe in an urban place or in the countryside a little bit. Yeah, and you would just turn up and you bring your own alcohol, and it was just about getting down to the music. And I think a law passed and changed that, and I was fortunate. You talked about the last year of Bar 25. I caught the tail end of that, and I caught the last summer of open airs, which was just crazy. It was just like even if you don't like the music, even if the music is not so much to your taste, who gives a shit? You just turn up because you're there with your friends. It doesn't cost you a thing, and you have a great time. And that's one of the sad things about
cheap as well. On top. Cheap as hell. On top of all that what you said.
But that's gone now to a large extent. I mean, the best one I ever did was actually the best one I ever went to was in this like a sandpit amphitheater out near Friedrichshagen out east, and it was Wilde Renata who put it on, and it was people like Toby Neumann DJing in this crazy place, and it was it was just that you could access this for free and bring your friends and bring your own alcohol. Like you said, it was super cheap, and it was something that it's gone now. That's gone.
It was crazy.
I mean, now these things have to be super secret because the legislation has changed. They still exist, but it's not as open as it was before.
Do you remember there used to be, before the days of the Facebook promotion days, there was a Arrested Realität? Who remembers what I'm talking about?
Yeah, of course. They actually have let's do a little promotion for them. They're doing, well, they don't need it really, but they're having the party tomorrow at About Blank. So
they have a party tomorrow at About Blank. Promote it. It's okay.
Yeah,
support
full support, of course. I mean, everybody was at Restrealität. I mean, I was there.
I remember.
And this was the medium where you got all your info, and like at some point you met these people that you maybe were probably chatting with for ages or something, and whatever, or you never met them maybe until today or whatever. They just keep like secret. I mean, it's just like super like nerdy and really, really informed group of like very interesting and very, very like colorful or not so colorful characters, but definitely like they're definitely down with what they're doing. No, anyways, but those were. I mean, it's always like kind of. It always sounds boring when people say, "Yeah, those were the days," but it was kind of cool. You know, I had a scooter. Police, hopefully not listening, just going around with a scooter from Wilde Renata to K-Pax to back to Bar 25 to whatever open air on some boat, and then go all the way to Sisyphus. So it just opened like the first party or something.
Early days.
It was like So and they had like one party, one opening party, and it looked totally different. And I don't even remember how I got home. I think I found money in a taxi or something to go there, and it was like already crazy. But anyways, yeah. So good.
That was the days. Yeah, everybody has these crazy stories, I guess, when they got.
Everybody does, and I think other people are still creating crazy stories. You know, probably for other people, you know, what we had then is probably like now Berghain or something. You know, something
it was
I
like
can't
being in
really
Woodstock when it happened.
Connect to. Yeah, but I think it was like we were pretty lucky that we were here then, and I think that's something to appreciate. You know, and it's cool. You know, it's like '94 Love Parade. There was only one Love Parade. You know, that was that, and after that, you know, it was shit. You know, you just gotta admit it. Sorry, people.
There was a time in history.
There.
We have to admit it. Like it's, I'm down with you. Like to be like leaning on nostalgic day all the time. It's not the thing, you know. But we have to admit, this time in history, it was the time. It was a special time.
Good enough.
It was a
and
good
now we
time
just
in
create
Everybody been there can tell that.
Something that's more like suitable
like
for us, you know. Maybe that's something, you know, that we can connect more to, you know, and whatever. I think what Brand's doing is absolutely amazing. You know, I think that's really cool, you know. And I'm still like dangling on there, you know, doing events that I think are like quality adult contemporary listening or something, you know, like put on Current 93 at a church and stuff like that, you know. And like I did Mayhem because I've been like a rock and roller from the heart or like metaller from the heart, done like a lot of like stuff like that, you know, like also done like a couple of jazz shows at Quasimodo because I was curating that. So, but of course, you know, it's a different area.
And
when is Mavin gonna sing here? I'm getting too drunk to talk.
It's coming.
It's hot here with all the guys.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
I think
Maybe it's time for
gonna
musical
take
break,
Is it a moment for our studio colleague
Yeah.
to showcase? So come on, Roy, explain to the people who don't know what is going on in your life now.
Yeah, tell us about your present days.
I moved to Berlin 5 years ago. I'm doing music under the project called Tropical Camel, which is a soul-seeking journey into my roots in the Arabic world, Morocco, Kurdistan, Iraq, in the traditions of my ancestors. Tropical Camel is going to release the first vinyl.
Okay,
I released a tape and digital, and it's going to be released in June in a label from Brussels called Rebel Up. In addition, I'm going to release in September in Tom Tom Disco of Richard Rosa with another project called Isma. I'm focused in live sets, Ableton live sets, on the way that I can improvise with these damn machines. And yes, that's it, basically. I'm a member also of the collective Arabstasy that is also releasing compilations, that is gathering Arabic electronic music from all the spectrum, from experimental to a more clubby. We are releasing the next compilation in a label called Infini in France. And yeah, active, hanging out in the studio.
Where do you make music nowadays? How is your creative process working in the studio nowadays?
How's your hustle, man?
Yeah,
the hustling we know already.
Yeah, I'm not playing a lot in Berlin. I had a party here last year that we did in Menschmeyer. And then in Polygon we hosted Good Names, but to promote a party was not kind of my cup of tea. And also parts of the collective went back to Tel Aviv, and but it was a really good experience. I think the parties were nice, had a lot of like colorful music, and had a vision that I loved.
Let's say the name.
Yeah, Deja Groove that I did especially
Shout out
with
to Daniel,
Lieutenant Dan, Janos.
Shout out. He's watching us now. If he doesn't, he should.
And Uri is that also doing his stuff. And yeah, right now I'm back from a weekend that I did 2 shows in one day in 2 different lands. Was quite stressy, but the trains were pretty much for my favor. It was a group of guys that actually are my bookers called CD and Co. They're doing parties called Disco Hammam, and they do it in a Arabic Hammam. So I played in Arabic Hammam. It was really nice. And then it was the Independence Day of Netherlands party, which was quite of a trashy event, but I enjoyed.
Koningenstag.
What?
Koningenstag. This is a hardcore drinking party
in Amsterdam.
Lots of folk music.
A lot of boats.
Yeah,
boats and drinking.
It was. Yeah.
Drinking
so
on a boat.
You want me to play live right now, or?
Yeah, let's see what you got.
All right. So it's time for some music, not some chit chat.
In studio. Yeah. This is Tropical Camel style, original style. This is our original style, a Tropical Camel style, never surrender to no style. My style is no style, my style is going through the oceans. I am a soul-seeking journey of independent thought. I am the shaman of lost souls. I am the one that will carry your soul. Release yourself from your ego of yourself. I'm the spoken word that has been never spoken. I am the shaman of lost souls. Check. I'm about to get you out of your ignorance, out of your indifference. Answer us. This is a
Tropical Camel session, hailing from the fountain of non-reason. Answer us, the God of question. Who are the gods? Who are the gods? Who are the gods? They are the other gods. We are surrendering to the gods that are speaking through the God. The God is time. Time is a story. Story is a time. Can time tell a story about time? The shaman of the lost souls, from the void of emptiness, down here in the country streets of Berlin. Session with Tropical Camel. telepathic wings and fly away. This is the voice of the tropical camel, the shaman of lost souls. You are lost in the deep. Oh, answer us, gods of question. Oh, answer us, gods of time. Answer us, the god of question.
Give it up to the Tropical Camel from the desert to Berlin. Shout out to our fourth studio member, by the way.
Yes, Roy, declare it. Thank you, man. Thanks for giving. Thanks for giving. Hypernatural. We're going to have a little bit more of a discussion, and then we're going to have Mavin performing, showcasing two of his... we're going to have two songs from Mavin. Come on, man.
All right,
so
two. Yeah, why
he's going to be giving up live vocal style. So, yeah. You know, he's Hypernatural. It's Friday night. Get a little bit of Vienna back. I'm back into my Vienna vibes. Hypernatural.
I mean, unless you want that show definitely to crash and burn. Yo, yo.
I just sensed there was a bit of reverb going on, Stefano.
I'd rather do pole dancing than singing.
Oh, there we go. Our wooden pole. Oh yeah. You have to watch out with the kit here from our brother Roy. Otherwise, we have some beats dropping in the mix. So maybe we should turn off the sound. Roy. Yeah, Stefano. Be professional, my friend. Mr. Berry Fields. Can you feel it, Berry Fields? There we go. I.O. Claire.
I'm not singing. Representing Mavin.
Sabrina was asking me what my brother Peter's doing. I guess
Still interesting because I've heard like you talking about some DJ touring or things like that.
Yeah, so
it's definitely something to mention, I believe.
Peter started off making like house music, and he was always very interested in slow tempo stuff. And after a year or two of playing countless gigs in Berlin and DJing house music and disco and a little bit of techno, he started moving towards what he called at the time exotica, which would be like world music kind of, but with a kind of like an acid techie kind of influence. And he started becoming fascinated with slower tempos, stuff. He would start his sets at 60 or 70 BPM, and he would never go over 110 in the end. And then he got invited to go to Brazil by this collective called Voodoo Hop in Sao Paulo, and he went over there. And kind of a classic story. He met a girl, and he joined the collective, and
very classic.
And now he lives in. He's got a place in a place called Chapada Diamanta in North Brazil, 6 hours away from an airport. They have a music collective and a space for artists to come and kind of do a retreat. And they're all vegetarian. They grow their own food and vegetables, and they have their own land. And it's my nuclear fallout zone.
We can't go there with like some lamb or something.
No,
we're not allowed.
But if shit ever hits the fan in Europe, that's where I'm going. And yeah, so but now he kind of he's got a great career. I always felt like if you wanted to become a super successful DJ playing like 4/4 house music, he could have, but he wasn't. He kind of lost interest in it. Now he does much more like.
Interests him really, like what he feels. Or?
Yeah, he's more. I don't know. He needs a spiritual or like a kind of connection to something. So he does lots more kind of some people would call it like new agey hippie stuff, but it's a lot more than that. And it's a different scene, and it's actually really fun going to his shows. Like he would play at Nation of Gondwana or a Fusion so he comes back here in the European summers. Yeah, so he's having a great time with the music.
He's making it, yeah, nice.
Yeah, and it's on his own terms, which is great because a lot of people compromise. They kind of want to fit into a formula, but he was never like that.
But is this DJ name still Peter Power? Or is it now Peter Half Power?
I mean, that's our family name. A lot of people in Berlin were like, oh, what a great DJ name you came up with. He's like, no, that's my actual name. But the funny thing is, our father's name is Richard, but nobody calls him Richard. I don't know if you're familiar with the nickname for someone who's called Richard is.
Yeah.
Dick?
Is it Dick?
So our dad. No, but that's my dad's name. That's my dad's name. My dad's name is Dick Power, and that's that's what everyone calls him. And And in the small village where we come from, he's a dentist by trade, and he likes to smoke weed occasionally. And in my village, they know, but they know him as in the village as Dick the dentist who likes to get high. Yeah, that's yeah. So yeah, no, he still calls himself Peter Parr because that's what's on his passport.
Nice. Have you been to Brazil yourself and saw your?
Not since Peter lives there, but I had the pleasure of visiting Brazil a couple of years, like 12 years ago. Yeah.
Cool. Wicked. So Mavin, you wanna speak a bit more so you can warm up before
Marvin,
singing, or?
Marvin, I don't know what you do apart from that you work in fashion and music. Can you tell me a little bit more? Tell us a little bit more.
Absolutely, yeah. Go for it, mate.
I'm chilling.
So we invite her for the.
What happened?
Position here.
Did you pee already? She was getting wet. All the dick action here. All right. So yeah, what I'm doing, I'm just I think I'm really busy with my fashion and my music, and try to balance it. Sometimes like there's more music and less fashion, but since I have a shop, I'm a shop owner. I have a vintage store around the corner. Le Magas Vintage. Le Magas.
Support the hood.
Le Magas Vintage, Reuterstraße 59.
Support the hood.
Reuterstraße 59. With all the fierce fashion, 80s, 90s, and beyond.
Reuterstraße.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm busy. I'm it's a full-time job, best believe.
So you got a lot of these old school jackets.
It just happened naturally. Just it was, I don't know, I didn't even think about it. I just started doing some pop-up events with some friends. Maybe you guys know Paramita? Exactly. So she was one of my first kind of customers, and she was also she's still very crazy with the fashion and everything. And I started doing this private vintage sessions at my home.
What does it mean vintage sessions for those from not the vintage industry? You just
music
jam session on clothes? I mean, how does it work?
It's just basically having fun with clothes, old clothes
Trunks
and cool clothes, and well, this is how it started. She knew that I'm into fashion, that I was working in fashion before, and when I came back to Berlin, I started experimenting with what was there. The whole vintage spirit is about using stuff that's already there. And
where do you get the stuff from? That's interesting.
Space.
Because I was when I was younger. When I was in my 17s, I used to.
Hey, yo! The song is called Space.
All right, maybe it's time for that.
Maybe
Maybe it's time for that.
It's
maybe it's introduction for that.
You want to sing, Bobby?
I have to see how my Space Echo says.
Is there a good delay on it? No, it was your mic. It wasn't mine.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, this is Space. Frankie Knuckles.
Okay. So it was
This Frankie Knuckles.
Good.
Frankie Knuckles tribute, man. This is him on the mix.
Pass it on.
Weird. So you're talking about space, and then
Yeah, space, exactly. And
connections.
So you get the outfits from space.
Yes, that's
Alright.
what I do. I'm collecting clothes and I'm selling them.
Wow.
So yeah, and that's how it started basically. I mean, she used to come with her friends to my place, and I did small vintage selling parties. It was kind of fun. I did 3 or 4 times, and then I had so much stuff. Because people just come.
Because people leave their stuff at your place. How does it work? Where do you?
No. I collect the stuff. I buy it. I travel.
All right.
Everywhere. And
where do you get stuff that?
That's secret.
Okay, you're trying to get to the juice, but it's okay.
No, you're not getting the juice here. So anyway, you need to pay for that. Oh,
not this kind of
here
juice.
We go.
Okay.
Exactly.
This is R-rated. I'm just coming back to that.
Alrighty, yeah, we're switching. Almost there.
No cursing, no juice in the show.
Anyway, it started happening. I got a lot of clothes because people wouldn't buy everything. I tried to sell them everything, but they couldn't afford it. So I still had some stuff in the back, and then I was like, okay. Actually, it happened by accident. A friend of mine was looking for an apartment, and he didn't speak German so well, so I helped him looking for an apartment. And there was one apartment on Alexanderplatz, in this center of
where
Berlin.
Humana was. No.
No, an apartment, not like a shop space.
That's why I'm mixing it.
Yeah, no, and don't even mention that word. That's a swear word.
Sorry.
Anyway, so it happened that I got in contact with like the landlord of now defunct shopping center on Alexanderplatz. Called I forgot what it was, not Kudam Carré, it's like Alexanderplatz Carré, something like that, you know. And she was like, okay, so what are you looking for? And I was like, well, actually, I'm looking for an apartment for a friend of mine, blah blah. And then she said, oh, but you're an artist? Yeah, I said, yeah, I'm an artist, I'm a designer. And started, oh, but we have like spaces, we can rent spaces to you.
Space.
Like, I was like, yeah, space, exactly.
Space Echo.
And I was like, look, I can't afford a space, you know, like I'm just like freelancing, doing my stuff. I was doing some graphic design and stuff like that. But she said, like, it's really cheap. I was like, but how cheap? I was like, you just name a price. And I said, like, okay, well, I can pay like whatever, like 200 or something. She's like, yeah, fine. And I was like, oh wow!
Lucky
and
break.
then I had like, lucky break, yeah.
That's
and then I opened
break.
the smallest vintage store in Berlin. That's how I called it, Le Magas.
Wow.
It was literally like I think like half this size of this room.
No, it's smaller than this place.
Half the size.
Could it be smaller than that?
The significance of the name, it was just like my name, like Le Magas. It's my father's last name, Magas, Magasuba, and Le Magas is just like my father's friends call him Magas. And I'm like, I just played with the name a little bit, just like yours, like Dick Powers, the dentist who likes to smoke weed or something like that. Yeah, exactly. So that's Le Magas. I mean, we're all connected somehow. So anyway, and it started like, that's how it started. And I started selling and random people started coming.
So when was the part when the apartment turned into a shop? This part didn't maybe get...
In that conversation, actually. We started talking about, I'm like a sucker friend. I'm like not really bad. I didn't find an apartment. I found something for me. A business.
Well, nice, not
bad.
You look for one thing, find another thing. It's a cool.
Exactly. I felt really bad, but he found like a really good apartment afterwards. Anyway.
Were you living in the shop and then when you just opened it? Or?
Living in a shop?
Yeah, when we didn't have
like living in a box.
Pretty much.
Here we go, girl.
Here you go.
Living in a box. Living. Yeah, no, I wasn't living in a box. Yeah, I was just like, and that's how it started. And then after 2 years, it stopped, and because they wanted to open like a Mercedes-Benz or something thing there. It didn't happen, or they opened like a new shopping center or whatever. There's like Kaufland or something like that there now. And then, not Humana, what was it, like Primark opened later. I was out, I was looking for a new space, and I found something in Neukölln, and I'm here already 5 years.
5 years. Oh.
5 years in Neukölln. I appreciate it. I wouldn't even think about moving to Neukölln like 10, 15 years ago.
10 years ago, it was out of the border.
It was totally,
for me, it was like beyond the enemy line.
Thanks to those expats who moved to Berlin, like the refugees, the rich refugees from the West, who made it cultural refugees. Exactly.
Cultural refugees. You want to start talking about it, Brendon?
Thank you, guys.
That's a good speech, yeah.
I don't know, where are we right now?
Actually, we are like hearing for some tune, maybe from Mavin after all this story. That would be great. When you're ready. I mean, it's gonna work.
A bit of a surrounding supernature going on there.
I'm going to have a smoke in the meantime. I'm going to do my thing. You just make something. I could. Like Christina Aguilera does it, you know, it's like you're pro. Put me up a little bit. Put me up a little bit more. Thank you. Hypernatural.Berlin. This is Mavin. And this is a song called Jumpin' Jack from my album Love. Produced by Bonomo, Lemagas, that's Snacks, and myself, Mavin. Are you ready? Let's do it. Hopping on another plane, it just never stops. If I had another option, I would give it up. Teleporting would be something I consider, but so what? Dr. Brown is on speed dial, but not picking up. Feeling like Jekyll, hide and seek. Busting a pen on my feet. So I'm moving on. I won't be a jumping jack. Gotta shake it off my back. I won't be a jumping jack. This time I know where it's at. I am restless, always guest listed, VIP zone. That's right. Fear Raven, Peck, Dame, and Jack like I wish to be clowned. So what? Changing faces, foreign places, way to pour it up. Cheers. Never seem to get the job, now the time is up. Yeah. And see. Busted a pen off the feet. Feeling like Jekyll, hide and seek. Yeah, busting a pen off the feet. So I'm moving on. I won't be a jumping jack. I gotta shake it off my back. I won't be a jumping jack. This time I know where it's at. You wanna put me on a leash? Good luck with that. I'm a Taurus and not a pussycat. I slice the meat and I cut the knife. I lick my wounds, eat you alive. Oh yeah. I said, I won't be your. Oh, I won't be your. No jumping jack. Jumping jack. Thank you. Woo! All right, that's my next single, making music. Bonomo, Lemagas. Oh, that's a filter action going on here. All right, let me bring you back to the 80s. All right. Heard the music, improvised. Started singing, harmonized. Ask a female, come jam with me, and let's create a melody. If you feel it like I do, just throw your hands up and feel this groove. Just forget your stress and strife. This should make you feel alright. music, sweet, sweet music. Whoa, music. So, if you happen to be out and you hear a sound so tight, shake it off, it's the comfort zone. Let your rag and bone man move along. Feel the power of a song with human voices. No metronome. Get united in a groove. The excitement breaks the rules. Making music, oh, sweet, sweet music. Oh, music. Oh, making music. Music. Sweet, sweet music. Making music. Oh, music. Sweet, sweet. Floating on a tidal wave of emotion like a slave to the rhythm and the vibe. Music gets me high. Do your thing. Do your thing. Just do your thing. Music, Hypernatural.Berlin, yeah. Oh, what about my guys? Oh, making music, sweet, sweet music. Oh, making music. All right, clap along. Music, making music.
It's just sad.
Sweet, sweet music. Oh, music. I'm out. Thank you.
Shout out to Mavin right there. Wicked raw.
Hypernatural. Thank you very much, Mavin.
So,
We're coming to the end, right? So what are we saying after 10
Slowly.
years of emotion? After 10 years of emotion, where are we at? What does the future behold to our own scenarios?
Well, I think I've got some crazy echo here. I don't know if I can be heard. It's okay?
Oh yeah.
All right.
yeah.
We back.
One thing that strikes me is that 10 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot of money, but there was a whole lot of enthusiasm and a whole lot of DIY stuff, and
That's true.
that with itself, that was exciting because you didn't need much to get set up here, and the possibilities were endless. Now the flip side has happened now, like the rents are gone up, but wages have gone up. There is more, for better or for worse, there is more money in this town, which itself is an opportunity. So like in the past, the barriers were much lower, and now you get this DIY stuff. But Berlin has grown up now, and I'm saying this having lived here just over 9 years. It's more, yeah, it's harder because costs have gone up. Not anybody can get a studio. Like, this is a great space here, but like in the past it was much easier to get something like this. Now it's harder, but the stakes are higher now, I guess. And so if you have the right idea, I guess the the funding is there that wasn't there before. You know, the arm aber sexy thing is over. You know.
So would you class
We're
it
still
being
sexy
a-
though.
There was a hypernatural statement.
Yeah. So do you think it's more of an adult playground?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, it's for better or for worse. It's not a good, it's not all bad. You know, it's shit that people get turfed out of their places with the rising rents. But at the same time, there is more money and possibility to do more sophisticated stuff now.
Oh, all right.
It was more like the Wild West back then. I don't know how you guys. Yeah, it was more punk, and yeah, now it's okay. It's at the risk of going yuppie now, but you know, with that comes opportunities. I don't know if you guys.
I mean, when I started booking, it was kind of like I had to do it because the booker went and left on his own terms, and he's like now in a very, very good and successful stoner rock band, Cadaver. So Christoph, this is out to you anyway. So he gave me the possibility to. So and we had to book bands, so that we were booking bands every night of the weekend. White Trash, which was already the third location of White Trash, which was probably not so underground that people, you know, used it, knew it from the first, and it was just like so much. I mean, you don't have stages that allow that anymore in Berlin anymore. You don't have that place. I mean, if you, I mean, maybe Urban Spray does it a little bit, but other than that, where do you have a stage that allows a band with no following to play and actually have an audience? Because people, okay, they were munching on their steak or their burger, but who cares? You know, people loved it or hated it, and it was just a great party. So yeah, something like that. I guess it was a little bit Wild West. Now you really have to, you have to deliver also.
Respect to the Wally
but
about
that's
that. Wally.
yeah, respect to the Wally wherever
exactly.
he's hanging. Respect, you know, ci vediamo a Venezia, I guess. You know, yeah, he was hard but tough, and his idea was fucking amazing. You know what he created. You know, sad to see it end like that, but I mean, that was it
was a good time.
a decade, definitely,
Was
definitely, yeah.
definitely a good time. Roy, what's your feelings then about today?
About Berlin? I have not a lot of feelings about Berlin.
Berlin and yourself.
No, like, you know, for me it's what I saw. Yeah, for me it's like a bit of clubbing world is full of boring shit. Yeah, that's what I find it. There is good parties. I had good experiences during parties and during shows in my life, but the whole scene itself, the clubs are really based, so they are not really open to new stuff. There is like Godzillas of, you know, the Godzillas of About Blank, the Godzillas of Wilde Renate, that are just doing it for the last 4 or 5 years. If you want to promote something and you come to a club, everybody will give you a really, really high stake deal, and then you have to like rip your pants and rip your pants off.
Wow.
They won't open really the doors for newcomers, and they
H&M
and in a lot of clubs they tell you that you have to book a main DJ for 800 euros, and they are like, and I like said to them, okay, we bring in for less, but we bring fucking good DJs. So, and I'm bringing 3 rooms full, but nobody cares. They care about the price range above it, and I'm talking about clubs with political awareness that has no political awareness, and the door policy for a lot of people that coming to my music is really bad. Syrians and people of color are not entering clubs if they are dressed in a certain way. I'm dressed mostly like with my glasses, so I'm protected, but still in Trezor they asked me, where are you from? I told them I'm from Berlin. So there is issues here that are, and okay, there is more money, but the money actually is not available for young artists. And the amount of DJs that there is here is just, and now that's trying Zeigen in the industry area next to Sonnenallee. There's a lot of small places like Solarium and Sounds that trying to evoke this, what you did, like small clubs. Some are more like gay, community oriented, and it's nice. But basically, if you want to come and make a party today, you will just, it's almost impossible. And then the other thing is that there is a certain pattern that the parties are, meaning it's very repetitive. In Deja Groove, we change style every DJ. So people know the DJ is changing. Because I go to a club and 12 hours, I don't understand the DJ is changing. I won't even lift my head. The BPM is not even changing. And even if it's a house room and a techno room, it's got so flat. And I think that for me, like, the only kind of, but only kind of, is that is a bit brave in his booking, but only kind of, I would say. And I think there is, and I see and I play a lot in France and in Belgium, yes, there is a curfew, but people are super open to music. Even if you play like a crazy fucking IDM set and people are standing a bit till 1, it's okay. They know somebody will come, they enjoy the music. Like I see in France a lot of like bookers booking for festivals, things that are pretty much wild, completely in front of like thousands of people. And I think Berlin and Germany as a market is very conservative, it's very repetitive. And
so you don't think it's quite open-minded as, I don't know.
No, I think Berlin is not open-minded. I think it's not multi-culti, and I think it's not liberal.
Because before I came, like Berlin was presented as a.
I think it's an illusion and a good promo,
and like something where you can be who you are, you can do whatever you want, things like that. But
no, it's
That's what I meant with, so at the end of the day, we're on the same terms. That's what I meant with the hedonism that is kind of advertised, and that it's like it's up to the people to actually live what the party scene is kind of, representing, so it's kind of, it's not up to the club, it's probably also up to the people. So if the people follow, the people are answering to what the kids want, and if the kids want techno and want their, whatever, black 90s clothes, and this is what they get, and probably also you have a lot of, the competition is so big here, so of course you're going to book the big names because you can have the big names. No, because you had the smaller clubs, and the smaller clubs had more, could play more variety. But except the names that you said, there is no real small underground clubs anymore. There is only, and even back then it didn't even matter, because you would just go to you would want to go to Golden Gate, or you would want to go to whatever little places just because you wanted to go there. You didn't care. Yeah, it's not about it. I think that kind of changed. Is it good? Is it bad? With the concert promotion, it's the same. You gotta deliver, otherwise you're gonna go down. But and then again, you can't deliver because everybody's on the the big money is also somewhere else. So I think we're like on the same terms here. But yeah, not so easy.
I think the consumers don't come because of the big names. Today, you go to Sisyphus because it's Sisyphus, and you want a Sisyphus experience. You want Gris Muller, you know what is the type of people, Wilder Inate, Mensch Meyer, you know who's the type of people, and you go, and most people didn't know in my parties, except me, I invited them personally, they didn't know. But people came to me in my parties and told me, like, people that here are 10 years or more, and they are going to parties, told me, I never saw such a multicultural party. And why is that? Because every DJ we booked was from a different spectrum, also playing like some of the roots music that is coming from. And that created of itself a very, very colorful crowd. And I think that's what is missing. And today it's very hard to bring people to a club, to a new club. I did the last party in Polygon. It was a new club. It's kind of a good club. It was warm, but it's very hard to bring people to a new club because people are consuming clubs. So the artist has less of a power, and the power are in the hands of the bookers and the promoters.
Always.
But far away more, because you don't have raves, and you don't have the people that can generate another idea in a rave, because the police will come and will just bury it. So it creates a scene that is well There is a lot of money, and it's influencing all over Europe. You will go to clubs in Europe, they play the Berlin, Sisyphus, Rummelsburg vibe
It's a brand.
everywhere.
It's a brand, though.
It's a brand.
And
Completely.
there is this risk that Berlin is turning into kind of like a Disneyland for clubbing. It's very like packaged, and people know in advance what they have this idea what they're coming for, and they expect to see it. And yeah, it makes it boring, it makes it repetitive, and it takes less risks. But I mean, there are options. You know, I mean, there are places like in about Blank. Oh, it's not there anymore. But you know, Room for Resistance, or people like Spatz Habibi. Doing stuff in Klunkerkanisch. I mean, it's in the minority. Sadly, it should.
Brendon, can I?
Exactly, and they're in Trauma Bar now. But yeah, but like you're right. It's too little, and it's one of the things we noticed when we opened Clan Raza 10 years ago was the same DJs were cycling through different clubs all the time. You know, the resident, and that's fine. Residents have to. People who are resident in Berlin, they have to eat, they have to DJ, whatever. But the programming was 80%. Just you could guess, you could be like, is that DJ going to be there on this night? Probably. You know, we have a 1 in 5 chance of being right, even if you didn't know. And there is not so much dynamism, and it's even worse now. You're right, totally.
And Brendon, can I ask you a question? Like, you think there was what Roy says about like a lack of innovation in this field because what he explained? Do you think there used to be more innovation back then, or do you think? Oh, and the second question is, where the innovation nowadays, if there is any?
I don't think there was more innovation back then. It just hadn't been overdone so much as. I don't think there was more innovation back then. I just think it was less formulaic. Because it hadn't been going on for as long. And now for the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years in Berlin, there is a formula that has worked, and this is why. And this comes back to money. You know, comes back to the business side of things, and business often crushes. You have to sacrifice between business and creativity, and that's the sad realistic part about it. But what was the second question?
The second question, there was definitely a change, like from what used to be and now, like what we're coming from.
But we have to be careful not to run the risk of becoming grumpy old men and women and talking about this. So I guess the kids, like, I don't even know what's going on. I don't know where it is. I'm 34 years old. I don't know what the kids who are like 19 and 20 are doing right now. And so maybe they're doing some fun stuff. I'm unfortunately out of touch with this kind of thing. So I don't know is the answer to that.
Okay.
I don't know if you have anything.
Maybe someone else.
No. Yeah.
No, but that's what I meant before. If that's what they want, if that's what they, you know, if Berghain is, you know, this is their rave, and there's so much good stuff happening. Also, like what we said before, you know, you said about we're talking about the bass revival, you know, all that kind of like big field techno stuff coming back, you know, Ross from Friends, stuff like that, you know, DJ Boring, all this. So I think there is actually a lot of like new old stuff happening. It's always going to be new old stuff, yeah. But come on, we recycled, you know. It's not like, I mean, maybe techno was invented, you know, at the end of the 80s, but I mean, we were already recycling. I don't know how many cover versions I danced to in the early 90s or something. So whatever, you know, I mean, you know, if this is what it is. And I mean, you guys are also a little bit torn. Once you're saying, okay, we always had the same Berlin locals circling around, then we brought in Danny Rampling, which is awesome, and now we have the big names. Also, you guys don't want the big names, so it's kind of hard to say, you know. I mean, but I mean, I like it that you can go out, that you have this choice here in Berlin. You get to see whatever 24/7. You can have all these huge fucking really amazing DJs. You get to see them, you know. I mean, and you know, that's quite a nice. Okay, talking about diversity, I'm not really sure. I think diversity is also formulated nowadays, you know, which is really kind of disgusting, you know. It's like, you know, this is like, I mean, it's like, yeah, you have to, this is like, you know, this is the queer blah 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 night, and then so and so many, and it just seems like it feels forced to me, and it feels actually like people are speaking for these people that are not even like in the game, just to make it there. But the poster, now I'm speaking for something about something about, but you know, but you kind of know what I, you know, it's just like it's definitely everybody should get involved, you know, and everybody should have an opinion and voice it, definitely. But actually, it should not come with a big declaration, because I think that's normal human behavior. But I guess unfortunately, it's not that common anymore.
You say, when you say you shouldn't come with a big declaration, you mean politically, or?
Yeah, it should just come naturally, you know.
I think it's important. But dance music was a political statement, and it was queer, and it was from people of color in its roots, and it's always been like that, and it lost that for a long time, and so even if it feels forced, I think that should still be nurtured, because techno was more punk than punk. You know, it was you know, you go back to
I went
Stonewall.
to
You go
techno because of punk,
you go back
so-
with disco and the roots of and Stonewall protests and stuff like that. And I mean, yeah, if it feels forced now, I think that's not such a bad thing. I get what you mean. There's a lot of tokenism that people
the
like.
bras have been burned before, you know, and somehow, you know, to be sometimes protesting, it's just so much more easy than it was like when there was really, you know, like the real protests happening. But whatever, that's just me.
I think I agree with you on that term when you said something about the formulated diversity that's like being sold to the outside, like always so like multicultural and blah blah, and Berlin is so colorful and blah blah, and liberal and everything. It's not always the case, of course. You have to fight for it. I mean, there are problems like what you said, you know, like when you're at the door, they don't let you in, like where you from, just because you have curly hair.
That's what I mean, but that's not the party at Berghain that maybe doesn't let the people in there is also the party that says, oh yeah, we're so queer, we're so diverse, you know. And those are I'm not talking about Berghain in general, but those are the people that maybe where the issues is where white techno is actually, you know, where I see, you know, whatever white artists, you know, actually, you know, putting the flag up, you know. But I mean, as
I think
I
that's
said,
a different discussion.
It's people
It's
talking
like
about people. Yeah, totally. Yeah. We don't want to end it on a on that vibe,
it's a
do we?
different discussion, definitely like a deeper one, but
yeah. deeper love.
But for me, what I'm coming from a very small town. Jerusalem is well known, but very small. We didn't have a club. I bought 2 speakers and we did raves we called it the pissing tunnel because it had that smell of piss.
Yeah, well, we had a lot of pissing tunnels in Berlin too.
Yeah. It was raves. We did raves in the snow. Yeah, and when there is snow, when snow in Jerusalem, nothing working. Like they cancel all the schools. They cannot go out of the house because we are not used to snow. But for me, what I learned, like after being in Berlin, in Tel Aviv, that a lot of like music that I love and I believe that innovative and avant-garde comes from the periphery. Comes from the peripheral areas where people are fighting just for having 20 people. Just to have 20 people or to have a rave of 100 people, like in
so
small
do you think
towns.
we got too lazy because of the wealth and of the success?
No,
and,
I think when you have too full, you not you know, you don't run after your food, and it's happening sometimes. And in Berlin we have a lot, and we as a crowd and as musicians, but also as a crowd we have a lot. But I see like a German scene that I like is like the Korn scene with Nicola Van Det and all the psychedelic disco guys are doing like, you see that these guys are just a bunch of guys in a small town and they are connected because there is internet today, but they are like creating their own cosmos.
Maybe
and you hear them in their releases. That's what I feel.
I think that you're like more connected to the roots when you're like smaller, when you don't have like the industry behind it, the money and stuff. You can experiment so much, and people act out of a different instinct. I think it gets lost in big cities. You know, you might start with like a good idea or like political statement or something like that, but when it becomes bigger and bigger, when you get like, you know, you get responsibilities, there's money involved, and you know, expectations, and you know, you have rents and bills. I mean, you can probably talk about it more than I do, but I think that usually like very often gets lost. I mean, when you think about the Pride Parade, this Christopher Street Day, for example, I mean, it's a joke in Berlin. I mean, when you look at it, really, it doesn't have anything to do. There's nothing political about it, you know. It's good for Instagram, exactly. Like I don't want to trash, you know, but you know, there's like the whole idea like of the Stonewall riots, and it's totally lost. Sometimes when they have like this alternative Pride Parade somewhere, then usually it gets more like, we used to have like the alternative, the fuck parade and stuff like that. That's when things really happened, you know. So I think it's like always, you know, like a give and take, and you can't really compare this, but I mean, I think we all agree to what you said, that this is like more pure and more like interesting, like those small things and like those, because they're coming from a different space. That's why I think.
I don't say it is a criticism towards Berlin. I think that it's good that there is DJs that living here good and the promoters that live here good. You know, it's not about that. It's about, I'm talking just not as a criticism, as a personal. It's like the difficulties that I hear also from other promoters to get also something different inside the club and to convince the people inside the club to take a small. No, it's not so far away. Look, like we booked Sneaker DJ. He's an amazing guy, or Pantera Kraus. Pantera Kraus coming from Leipzig, from this scene. And when we booked him, it was like he was booked at us 2 months after he was in Panorama Bar. Now it's like his third time, and he's doing this MPC dirty house. It's amazing stuff, but I never saw him play in Berlin. It took him so long after 3 or 4 vinyls. He's from Leipzig. That shows that even people that are not that experimental like me, or that are doing exotic stuff, are having a trouble to have a step. And that's, I think it's...
I have a problem with my music. With my pop music, for example, I mean, nobody wants to book me, because basically I'm not like a DJ, I don't play techno, and my live set, it involves my voice, and like whatever, my dancing.
You
and
would
like
be in Deja Groove, you would be like the perfect suit.
I'm just like, thank you so much.
Truly. That's what we wanted to do. That's why we brought African 808, which are 2 guys that did Berghain many times and decided to go for a different direction. And actually, they play much more in France, like me, then in Berlin, and then in other places. 2 veteran guys that played Bar 25 and all these places.
I think we're over, but I just want to say something. A big shout out to African Acid is the Future. Have you heard about them?
Yeah,
it's like Mariama. Like they're doing also like awesome job. So
thank
you so much.
Something different.
Thank you guys. Thank you. We appreciate that. So thank you to Mavin, to Brendon, to Sabrina, and to Tropical Camel. Obviously to Bobby Star behind the decks as well. To Stefano, to Danny, to myself a bit as well. But thank you for watching. It was great, it was great live show.
See you next time. Oh, you heard that before too.
It is.